Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Very warm welcome to our webinar on postgraduate funding opportunities at the University of Aberdeen. Today we're specifically focusing on alumni, so people who have already graduated from the University of Aberdeen or perhaps about to graduate very soon. So my name is Brian Hussey. I'm the Head of Marketing and Campaigns here at the University of Aberdeen, and I'll be hosting today's session. And I'm joined by a number of colleagues who are all going to give their expertise and insights relating to postgraduate study and to funding. So I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. David, do you want to start off?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is David Stoll. I'm currently Head of Admissions and Future Students Engagement here at university, but once upon a time I was an undergraduate student who then continued on and did his master's here at university, albeit a fair few years ago now, but I'll try my best to answer any questions you have. And I'll pass over to Regina.
Hi, my name is Regina. I'm one of the careers advisors, senior careers advisor here at the university. Like David, I did an undergraduate and postgraduate at the university many years ago. I primarily look after the business school and the School of Engineering, but obviously we speak to all kinds of students from all sorts of backgrounds.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenna Stewart. I'm a development officer for online education. I do have an undergrad and a postgrad, but they're not from here, so don't hold it against me, guys. Our team looks after online postgraduate students at the point of registration, and then we work alongside schools to support students through their studies.
Excellent. Okay, so just a few little housekeeping matters before we start off properly. This is going to be a very informal, relaxed session. So we do have an outline, an agenda as such. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the reasons to undertake a postgraduate degree in the first place. Some of the career benefits of doing a postgraduate study, etc. Then we're going to cover briefly some of the postgraduate opportunities we have here at the University of Aberdeen, including master's programs. We'll talk a little bit about conversion programs. These are where students who have studied in one subject, maybe for their undergraduate degree, and then they want to swap into a different area. So we'll talk a little bit about those kind of programs too. Jen is going to give us an overview of online. This is an area that the university has expanded a lot in the last few years in terms of our provision of online master's programs and indeed short courses for those of you interested in that area too. Then we're going to get into the funding opportunities. So I'm going to outline some of the main sources of funding. We can't cover everything today, but I'll try to focus on the main sources of funding to support students and particularly alumni. And then we will have hopefully, plenty of time for questions and answers as well. So while we're talking, and for the first section of the webinar, if you have questions about anything we're saying or anything relating to postgraduate study or funding, please post your questions in the Q&A box that you should see on your screen. And we will then go through those questions at the end in the final section of today's webinar. Okay, so let's start off. As I said, we're going to just kind of introduce the topic by just having a more broad overview of some of the reasons why we see students opting to undertake a postgraduate qualification. So, Regina, I know in your experience in the career service, you have a lot of expertise in this area. So I'll start with you if you'd like to kind of go through some of that information firstly.
Yes, thanks very much, Brian. Yes. I mean, I'm very aware that obviously you're here because you are thinking about postgrad study, and some of you might well have your plans already sorted out. But just as Brian says, to give a little bit of background from a careers perspective, the reasons behind postgraduate study, how it can be useful, and what we would recommend. So, Margaret, if you want to flick the slide. I thought I would start off with some statistics. That's always good. So immediately getting you engaged here. What I've pulled together here is statistics from a survey called Graduate Outcomes. So if you have already graduated, and it was a little while back, 15 months or more, then you will know about this because you will have been contacted. So everyone who finishes a qualification at a British institution is contacted by the Higher Education Statistics Agency, and those are then pulled together as statistics. So I just want to show you what the sort of differences are in terms of outcomes, what people do afterwards with the different levels of degree qualifications. So you can see here with a first degree, so a lot of people go into full-time work, but also quite a bit part-time. 10% work and study, that might be professional qualifications or maybe balancing online study as well. Quite a few full-time further study and 5% unemployed. Other is things like taking time out to travel, maybe not being well, having caring responsibilities and so on. So if you want to go on to the masters, so you can see for the masters, quite a lot more people going into full-time work there. Part-time, not very different, and there are lots of reasons for that. The work in further study is reduced a little bit, so is the further study, but also the unemployment goes down a good bit. And then finally, if any of you are thinking maybe even going on to PhD, you can then see, the unemployment is even further down. Obviously, the further studies is there's still a percentage point. I'm not sure what they're all doing, but you can kind of see the progress. So is it worth it overall? Is there a difference? Yes, there is really. So investing in a master's in postgrad study can definitely be worth your while. But let's look at it in a little bit more detail just to see, what the reasons might be. So there are some areas of work where you don't really have a choice. Okay, you're not going to teach in a Scottish school unless you have the right qualification, and you do that through a postgrad. There is an undergrad, but if you don't have that one, then you need to do a postgrad. And there are other areas like that. So counselling, if you want to be a physician associate, if you fancy a career in academia, either research or teaching, most people have a PhD. Almost everyone has a PhD. So there are those areas. And what I've done in the next few slides, in this one, you can see that if you haven't discovered yet, on our alumni pages, there are really amazing vignettes, profiles of people who have studied with us, undergrads and then postgrads as well. So Fiona here on the screen, she's working for CERN. It's quite nice being able to play with the Big Hadron Collider. And she has a PhD because she works in research. So that is almost a given that these people have that background. So that would be one reason to do that. Probably a bigger segment, I would say, in terms of who I speak to, would be where you're thinking, well, it could give me an advantage and also it opens up more opportunities. So I've listed quite a number of areas where that could be the case. But let's take something like marketing, for example. That's a great example. So there are graduate programs in marketing. You don't really need to have even studied that quite often. And they will train you up and they will teach you everything you need to know. But there's not that many of those. And if you maybe want to stay in Aberdeen, say, definitely not that many in Aberdeen. So then, you're not restricted to quite such a small area to so few vacancies. You can then branch out a little bit more, apply to individual vacancies where they say, well, it would be great if you had a qualification in this or some experience in this. And of course, through a postgrad, you can get that. HR is slightly different even. So in HR, there is a professional qualification that people usually have. And if you want to get on and build a career in HR, then you kind of need to have that. So again, do you have that before or after? Do you have the experience or not? So our postgrad is accredited. So that takes care of a good bit of that. And then you can apply to more opportunities, maybe also local opportunities, rather than having to go somewhere else to do your training. And again, Jessica on the screen here is a really great example of that. She did an undergrad, she started working, but then, she qualified herself further so she could get on in her career and then do bigger things, basically. So that would be another reason. And then the last one, really, I would say, is that it will just help me in some way. And there are lots of reasons for that. So it could be that you want to change direction a little bit, or you've maybe studied something, but you've gone away from it in your work, and now you want to come back to this. I get that quite a lot with engineers who maybe have a first degree, then do something a bit different, but actually I'm missing the technical side. I want to go back to that. Or it'll just give me a real boost. You know, I can go beyond what I've managed to achieve. And I've got, you know, as I said, there will be many other reasons like that as well. So I've got a couple of people on the screen here for whom that is true. So Caitlin, if you read her profile, she explicitly says, you know, I'd gone as far as I could with my qualifications, but then I put the MLit in museum studies on top of that, opened up lots more opportunities for me, and then I could get on. Or Grant, who is the chief executive of the Cairngorms National Park. I've heard him speak as well. So again, he then put an extra qualification on top of his undergrad, which he also did with us very nicely. And then, you know, that opened up way more opportunities. He learned about policy in his postgrad, and then that then got him into those higher level opportunities, and he could then get on with his career. So there are all of those reasons. Everyone has their own reasons. The only one I would guard against a little bit is this last one. And that is, I just really want to have another year of study and then I'll decide what I want to do. Now, of course, we would love you to come to us for postgrad study. However, there is a little bit of a danger in that, I would say, in that if you then work out what you want to do, and lo and behold, it's something where you need a postgrad and a very specific one, and you're not on that postgrad, you know, then it gets longer and more expensive. So I would just say, you know, have a think about what you want to do first of all, and work that out. So how do you do that? So if you want to flick the screen, yeah. So on our website, we have lots and lots of different resources, which are open access. Whether you're still studying or not, it really doesn't matter. You can access that very easily. So if you scroll down on our homepage, you come to these for search boxes, and you can search it by job type, or you can search it by the subject area, which is hidden there with the drop down. But you can have a look at, you know, what are the different options? What will that take me to? Is that what I'm thinking about? What else do I need to consider? What else is important here? So you can do a little bit of groundwork yourself if you haven't done that already. And of course, the other thing you can do, and if you want to just go to the last slide, is to then contact us. So if you are current students, then you will know my Career Hub, hopefully. If you're alumni, you might not know because we changed system last year, but you are very welcome to register on there, and then that gives you access to our appointments. We have an online query service, but it also gives you access to more resources, to what we have advertised in terms of jobs and internships, and you will then also see events and fairs and everything else. And of course, you'd be really welcome to make the most of any of these services. Come and see us, or arrange an online appointment if you're not local, and obviously go along to any of the events. So that is absolutely there for you. You can grab the QR code now if you like, but I think that's the link will also be given again at the end. So that is really just to set the scene a little bit on the reasons for postgrad study. I'm sure you have your own reasons as well. And I'll hand over at that point.
Thank you so much, Regina. That was a very good overview and some good, interesting data as well to back up some of those points, which is always good to see. You know, you mentioned the example of teaching as one of those that, you know, would have a large number of students who have to do a postgraduate qualification unless they've done the relevant undergrad degree in education. Do you see any other sectors in particular that you would see a high level of students doing a postgraduate qualification? And I'm also interested in terms of students who are, like I did a history degree as my undergrad, and then I ended up working in marketing. Now I did a professional diploma, the CIM route, which was a little bit later in my career. But for those students who are looking to maybe after graduating, move into something in an entirely different field. Education would be one example, pretty popular. But what other kind of sectors do you see that in terms of students doing a postgrad qualification, and particularly students moving into a different subject area for their postgrad?
You can do that in all sorts of different areas. So it used to be super popular in IT, and that is still the case to some extent. That, you know, we used to call them conversion courses. So postgrads that were specifically aimed at people who maybe don't have the same undergraduate. Finance is definitely an area. Marketing, as you're saying, is quite popular, HR. But you will also get that in things like project management, for example, that is also taken by quite a number of different people who maybe want to move into a slightly different area. So you can do that in many, many different fields. And I think the UK, the graduate labour market, is really famous for being very open. So a lot of graduate opportunities are open to people from any discipline. But of course, you do need to show an interest, and you have something that is related to that, and you can demonstrate, I've been working towards that. And that can be really, really helpful.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next section, where we just want to talk a little bit more about, specifically here at Aberdeen, some of the opportunities in terms of our postgraduate offering. So David, I might come to you first. If you could just give us an overview of the types of programs we offer here at postgraduate level. If you want to focus maybe on the on-campus programs, and then Jenna can talk a bit more about online, which, as I said earlier, is also a growing area.
Yeah, glad to. So I think the key word on the screen there is options, where we, across sort of the whole of our prospectus, we probably have around 200 postgraduate masters that we will sort of classify as taught masters. We also have a few that's sort of more research-focused ones. Generally, a taught masters, if you're doing it full-time on campus, would be 12 months. You would have 2 terms of taught classes, labs, practicals, seminars, lectures, coursework, exams, and then a 3rd term where you normally have sort of a dissertation or a research project. Some of our programs, especially in the law school, have sort of professional skills elements. Some, like our business school, doesn't do end of year sort of projects. They have further degrees that you do to have more of a hands-on approach to it. And we offer these programs across, business, engineering, physics, languages, history, divinity, you name it. We do have some postgraduate offerings. But obviously, we realize a lot of people who may be going to postgraduate study have other commitments, or maybe want to do their qualification alongside work commitments. So we do offer some flexibility where you can study a program full-time on campus. As I said, is the classic, what you're used to from your undergraduate degree, being a student, and that's the main thing you do. But for a lot of them, we also offer it as a part-time option, so part-time on campus. Obviously, that's mostly for more local-based students. You still have to come onto campus, attend classes. For that, and then, as Jana will talk a bit more about those, we also have online options, and often we offer the same program in all 3 of those. So you can do data science, for instance, full-time on campus, you can do it part-time on campus, you can do it full-time online, and you can do it part-time online. So whatever works best for your circumstances, we will try and offer you the right pathway, the right mode of study. If you are an international student and you require a student visa to study in the UK, then some of those options are unfortunately not available, as there are some restrictions on what kind of study you can do on a student visa. But generally, if you're not on a student visa, then you have the full panoply of options available. As Regina sort of touched on, there's different types of masters. Some are what we would sort of call specialization masters, so where you normally need a background in the field. So for instance, if you want to do petroleum engineering, you kind of need to have an engineering bachelor to have the requisite knowledge to build on, to expand on, and to gain more detailed knowledge in that specific sort of subcategory. Often in the sciences, this is the case, where you need to have the right background, the right knowledge to build on. But then we also offer a whole range of what is sort of called conversion masters, where you don't need to have a specific background, where as long as you have an undergraduate degree, then you can be considered. And those are often for people who change their mind, who want to add a second skill set to their cap, or have decided on a career change. So whatever the reason, but they can open new opportunities. So you might have done a science undergraduate degree, but now you're also looking more at maybe the business side of it. So you can come and do our international business management masters and have those two combined skill sets. Some of these conversion programs are also open for students who maybe decide to go into an area where they weren't really considering it, but that has sort of specific entry requirements, like psychology, for instance, where often if you want to do a master's or further study in psychology, you need to have a degree that's accredited by the British Psychological Society. So we do offer a MSc in Psychological Studies that gives you that accreditation, that gives you that knowledge that you need to then go on into other opportunities within psychology. So there's a lot of different options there. All of this is on our study pages. We have an online prospectus which lists of the course content, which gives you the various modes of study, often what accreditation is available. So yeah, as I said, it's all about the options. So there's a lot that you can pick from, but it is, as Regina said, you decide on why are you doing it, what do you want to gain from it, and then pick the right program for you. And if you need help with picking the right program, we will have people available that you can talk to, the course coordinators, academics, the careers team, to make sure you do pick the right decision. Of course, nowadays people are busy. We all have other commitments. So maybe coming onto campus, being in Aberdeen, as great as it is here, and as someone who's been here for 23 years, I'm happy for every extra year I get to spend here. But maybe that's not for everyone. So there are more and more online opportunities available. As I mentioned, some of our programs we offer both on campus and online at the same time. One or two we only offer online, but for the majority, the online ones mirror our on-campus ones, and there's sort of different options on how you get into those. So I'll pass over to Jenna for a bit of an overview of our online offering.
Thanks, David. So as David said there, it might just be that it's not feasible for you to be able to come on campus, and our online study options allows our students to study more flexibly and be able to fit in with sort of work-life commitments that would maybe mean that you can't physically get onto campus. Now, having studied a master's online myself, I know how important it is to get our offering right and ensure a quality student experience for our online students. And our online portfolio now includes over 50 programs and almost 200 short courses. And that's growing all the time. When I say we've got new short courses going up on a daily basis at the moment, that is no lie. So for online, students can start their studies with as little as 15 credits for a short course, and you can work your way up to full master's programme should you wish to do so. It's a great way of coming back to study if you haven't studied for a while. So if you did graduate a fair bit of time ago, it can be quite the thought to be going back to study, and this is a great way for you to be able to sort of dip your toe in the water to see if it is the right thing for you before you make a sort of bigger commitment to maybe a programme as well. And we've got many options when it comes to study. We've got subjects that are maybe just topic kind of based on interest, or you can look at a qualification, a full master's qualification, or a PG diploma, or other certification as well. So there's lots of options available for you. A unique option at Aberdeen is that we have what we call a short course route to a master's. So our short courses are typically self-evaluation, and that means that you don't need to have studied before to go down that route. The majority on the call are alumni, so this doesn't necessarily mean it's a benefit for you because you've probably already studied. But if you've got friends and families who've always wanted to study but they didn't think they could because they don't have an undergraduate degree, then this could be the ideal option for them. You're looking at people who have got lots of industry experience but they don't have a specific qualification in that area. This is an ideal route for them to be able to get that qualification. And as Regina had said there, it just kind of amps them up in terms of other opportunities in business when they're able to put the qualification with the industry experience. And another benefit of this route is how you pay for your study. So obviously we're here to talk about funding. You only need to pay for your courses as you're about to study them. So it could be that you decide to choose one course for a September start date and you'll only pay for that course. And then you might decide at the next term that you're happy with the level of study and you could do a little bit more. So you pick 2 courses and then you could pay for those 2 courses before you study in them as well. And Brian's going to go into a bit more detail later on with regards to funding, but you do qualify for your alumni discount for all of our short courses as well, which is really good. And that stackable route is becoming more and more popular. So We've got students all around the world, and I was just having a little look before we came onto the call there. For last year's intake, we had over 100 different nationalities studying with us. So it's a really great opportunity to mix with people from around the world as well. So yeah, it's a fab option for a lot of people. Regardless of the route that you choose, ensuring that you've got the right support and the time that you need to complete your studies is our main priority. So for online students, and I think this is a question that's come up already as well, students have up to 6 years to complete a full master's programme, and that allows you just to study at your own pace in a way that suits your kind of work-life balance. And we really are seeing people moving towards that stackable course model where they pick a course or a couple of courses and they work their way through those courses as they need to reach that master's level. And there's always things that come up in life that are unexpected. So be that funding or family, or you maybe just need to take a little break for a little while. It gives you that flexibility to dip in and out of study in a way that suits you as well. But if there's any questions specifically about online, we're more than happy to take those questions. And we've got a lot of detailed information on our website as well, which will be shared after the webinar.
Great. Okay, so that's funding came up a few times in those bits there. So that's what I'm going to now move on to. The funding opportunities are quite wide-ranging. So in the time we have today, I'm just going to focus on 2 or 3 of the main ones, but I don't want to give the impression that this is it in its totality. So I'm really just going to zone in on 3 particular funding opportunities that I think will be of interest to the majority of people on this call. But I'll mention as well some other sources of funding, miscellaneous, and links to those information as well. So the first opportunity I want to talk about is the Alumni Postgraduate Scholarship. Now, if you've studied at the University of Aberdeen already, or indeed any university in the UK, you'll probably be aware that there are different fee categorizations for students based on where they are typically domiciled. So this particular funding only applies to students who are categorized as home. By home, we mean Scotland or rest of UK for fees purposes. So I'll mention some other opportunities for international students in a few minutes. So the Alumni Postgraduate Scholarship essentially caps tuition fees at £7,000 for the vast majority of our full-time on-campus taught postgraduate programs for starting this September 25. We also have a lot of programs that have a January intake as well. So for students who maybe aren't ready to go straight into a master's in September or a postgraduate degree in September, be aware that there are also quite a few of our programs that also have an intake in January if you need that extra time. So what that means is that we've basically reduced our tuition fee for our alumni. And what that means is we've also brought it into line with the current SAS funding. So SAS funding is the Student Awards Scotland funding. There are other funding, equivalent levels of funding for England and Wales and Northern Ireland as well. But we thought, given that that's the cap or the limit of student loans available in Scotland, that's where we have pitched or pegged our tuition fee for students, for home or UK students. This scholarship basically means that for an Aberdeen graduate looking to do a postgraduate degree, it should be very much, if not significantly less than, very close to an equivalent program at another Scottish university. So that's the other kind of benefit of this. The scholarship is awarded automatically. So if you've applied for a postgraduate program and you meet the eligibility requirements, you will be automatically applied this discount to your tuition fee to bring it down to £7,000. So there's no separate application for the scholarship itself. So, and it applies to a vast range of programs. There's only a couple of exclusions that I'll mention on the next slide, Margaret, if you want to move along. So I've just selected a range of programs. This isn't the total number of programs that this applies to. But just to give you a kind of an an example of what that discount means in real terms. So different programs at the university, depending on the type of program they are, whether they're lab-based or non-lab-based, etc., they all have slightly different tuition fees. So the first column here is I suppose you would call this the normal or the regular tuition fee for a student with the home or UK fee category doing a master's here at Aberdeen. And if you're an alum and you meet the eligibility requirements by being a University of Aberdeen alumnus, you would only pay £7,000. So you can see, depending on the program, if you were choosing one of these programs, for example, that could result in, essentially a discount ranging from anything from about 3,000, 4,000, indeed up to about £8,000, depending on the program. And like I said, this isn't the full list of programs. It's just a sample from across the university of the master's programs that we offer, just to show you what that scholarship actually means in real terms. I did mention that there are a couple of exclusions from this program. So our MBA program, the professional diploma professional legal practice in our School of Law, and the physician associate program in our School of Medical Sciences are unfortunately excluded from this. But the next I'll come to the alumni discount, which is a separate funding provision for alumni as well. They are picked up on that one. So even if you're looking at one of these programs that isn't part of this particular scholarship, as an alum, you would still qualify for a discount under this other scheme. So yeah, that's basically the Aberdeen alumni, the postgraduate alumni scholarship. As I mentioned, that was just for home or UK students. For international students, whether you're actually an alum of Aberdeen, or indeed, if you're not, this applies to all international students doing a postgraduate degree at Aberdeen, a postgraduate master's, or again, starting either in September 25 or January 26. This is a partial tuition waiver that's applied to the international fees for our programs of £8,000. So again, that significantly reduces the cost for an international student doing a eligible postgraduate degree here at Aberdeen in this forthcoming academic year. Again, like the previous example, there's no separate application required for this. This is something that our admissions office administer as we're processing applications. So once we've identified that you're an international student and that you've met the criteria, this scholarship is automatically applied. Again, this program also has a couple of exclusions. Like I mentioned before, the DPLP, PGDE and dentistry programs are excluded from this particular offer. The QR code there will take you to the webpage for that scholarship, where you can see the full terms and conditions and more information about that scholarship. And next one, please, Margaret. Yeah, confusingly, I know this can get a little bit confusing. The Aberdeen alumni discount has been we've had this for many, many years, whereas the postgraduate scholarship I mentioned at the beginning is brand new for this year. This is a 20% discount on postgraduate programs for Aberdeen alumni. This also actually applies to students who may have been here for a short time as a visiting student or an exchange student. So over the years, we've had lots of students who've come as through like study abroad or what was previously called Erasmus and exchange programs. So anyone who has studied at the University of Aberdeen, or even as a visiting student, or who holds a degree, has graduated with a full program from Aberdeen, is eligible for this discount. This applies to all our on-campus programs, with a couple of exclusions that I've listed below. All of the online programs and short courses that Jenna was talking about previously. It excludes one of our MBA programs, but the majority of our MBA programs are also covered under this discount, and the Physician Associates program, which is also covered under this. For students doing research degrees, it's not applicable for the entire program. It's only applicable for year one of the full-time research degree, so someone doing a PhD. And then if you were doing a PhD part-time, it would be for the first 2 years of that program. So that's the alumni discount. And again, that QR code should lead you to that web page. I'll also have the web details at the end of the presentation to share as well for further information. Okay, and then finally, like I said at the beginning, there are actually dozens and dozens of different funding opportunities. I've only focused in on the main 3 big ones for this particular audience. But as I said, it's not exhaustive. We have quite a few other scholarships that are available for postgraduate study. We get quite a few of our industry partners who provide scholarships for students doing master's programs. Particularly in things like our School of Engineering, School of Geosciences, Natural and Computing Sciences, we have a lot of industry scholarships. These are usually linked to a specific program. So again, it really would depend on the program that you were applying to. But if you go to the individual program pages or the funding database, which you'll find under this QR code on this slide, you will find more information about our industry scholarships. Our development trust as well also provides a lot of funding and scholarships for postgraduate students. Again, you'll find that information on our funding database. For research programs, so students doing PhDs, again, it's a very complex picture of funding. There's lots of funding. It's very hard to summarize it all in one slide. But we do offer studentships. So those might be funded by the university directly to students undertaking PhDs. Some of them are also from external bodies like UKRI would probably be the main funder of PhD programs. Sometimes, again, there'll be industry partners who are funding research into a particular, could be a new product development or something that they're doing. We have students who are funded by industry, and of course, quite a few of our international students are funded by organizations or governments in their home country as well who sponsor their PhDs. So yeah, we could do an entire separate session, and maybe we should one day, on PhD funding. It's quite a complex network. So it really is kind of linked very much to the subject area or the particular project. We also have predefined PhD projects that will usually have specific funding associated with them as well. So again, best place would be to go to the particular school or department or the postgraduate research college who advertise our PhD programs for more information about PhD funding. And then I mentioned earlier about SAS funding. So if you study here as an undergraduate, as a home student, as a Scottish student, for example, you'll probably be already familiar with SAS, but SAS does also provide student loans for postgraduate study, which is the same value as the postgraduate alumni scholarship I mentioned at the beginning. And there's obviously the corresponding funding bodies in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So that is a bit of a whistle-stop tour. As I said, it's not the totality of funding opportunities, but it is the main ones that probably would be the ones that would apply to the vast majority of our students. So hopefully that gives you some better understanding of the funding available. And yeah, I'm sure you'll have lots of questions we can hopefully answer today. But yeah, if you want to go to find some more information on that, so the funding database is the kind of where everything is housed in terms of all the funding opportunities that I've mentioned there. If you have any questions specifically about funding, you're best to email the study@abdn.ac.uk email address, and some of these other links are where you can find out more about the programs too that we discussed today. So just conscious of time, we want to make sure we've got plenty of time for all the questions that have come in. So thank you so much for your questions so far. And if you have more, please do add them now, and we'll try to get through them all before the end of the session. To kind of wrap up the main presentation, I'll ask David again, just very quickly, if you've already decided, right, I'm interested in a postgrad, I have an idea of what you offer, I have an idea of the funding that might apply to me, what are the next steps? David, could you maybe take us through from any kind of deadlines or how you actually apply for a postgrad, or if you want to mention anything around kind of key dates that students, in terms of next steps, they need to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you decided you're ready to submit your application, unlike for undergraduate studies where there's sort of a centralized system for all of the UK, at postgraduate level it is all done through the university's own applicant portal. So on all of our prospectus pages, once you've done your research on the degree you want to do, you will find an Apply Now button, which takes you to our postgraduate application portal, PGAP. Where you can submit your application. Like any sort of these portals, it asks for a whole bunch of information about yourself, the program you want to study, the start date. So if you want to come this September or maybe January 26, you can apply for, we normally have about 3 intakes, as we call them, open at a time. So you could apply for the September, you could apply for January, or you could also already apply for September 26 if you know you have some study leave coming up, or that fits better within your timeline. And it is also possible, I should say, to apply for this September, and then if your plans change, we can defer your offer to January instead, or to next September. So once again, going back to the flexibility and the options you have. So if your plans change, we can accommodate that. But generally for your application, we want information on your previous studies. So obviously for the people in this call, a degree from Aberdeen. And while we have access to student records, it does help the process if you have a copy of your transcript or your certificate, if you upload it again in the application portal. That just speeds up the process slightly and allows us to make a decision quicker. We also want to see a short personal statement explaining why you want to study the program, what you hope to gain from it. And then for a lot of our programs, we do not require letters of reference. But if you have a good letter of reference, you're more than welcome to upload one. And some programs do require a letter of reference as well. And then those are the main things we look at. For anyone who's maybe done their degree a while ago and has joined the workforce, done other things, and is ready to come back to study, we do take work experience into account when reviewing an application. And it can make up for maybe if your GPA or your degree was a while ago, was maybe the outcome wasn't quite what you would hope for, or if you're going to an area that's very different from what you did your bachelor degree in, but you've gained lots of work experience in a relevant area, we can take that into consideration and still make you an offer for a degree where maybe normally we would consider or would require a specific bachelor degree, but because of your work experience, we can sort of still make you an offer even if you don't quite meet that sort of subject-specific requirement. A lot of our information about entry requirements is on the individual prospectus pages, where we'll give you an idea of what we normally ask for in terms of background. For most of our programs, we ask for the equivalent of a 2-2 from the UK. And then for our business school, they casting the net a bit broader because they obviously take into account a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of sort of real business experience. So they, if you have a degree, if you've successfully gained a degree, at least that's sort of third class, they would happily consider you. In terms of deadlines, if you're an international student requiring a visa, then there are also stricter deadlines. We would normally want to have an application. So for September, it would be early August. It's the 3rd of August is our application deadline. If you do not require a visa, once again, we can be very flexible. We've had cases where people apply the week before term starts, and we can still turn that around. And obviously then I have to get ready to maybe, move or start studies, a week later. But if you're ready to do that, we can make an offer quite close. So there isn't really a fixed deadline. But I think for online, it can also be quite flexible up until sort of that welcome week before teaching really starts. But we can still consider applications. I think that's sort of enough of an overview. If you have any questions, you're very welcome to contact us on Study At or post them in the chat. But I think we do have quite a few questions. So, Brian, we should probably try and get through as many of them as possible.
Yeah, let's do that. So I can see actually some of us have been answering some of kind of giving some direct replies in the comments themselves. But I'll ask Margaret maybe to try to pull out some of the more some of the questions that we can go through. If you could maybe just, and we'll all try to answer them as best we can today, or provide information. Maybe we can follow up as well after the session if necessary. So Margaret, is there one or two questions we might want to get started with?
Sure. So we'll start off with quite a common question I think we get. Someone has asked, is it possible to combine both the Aberdeen Global Scholarship and the Aberdeen Alumni discount for our tuition fees?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one we do get quite often. The answer is no. You can only apply, only one will be applied, and obviously it'll be the one of the greatest value, which for certainly for an international student would be the Aberdeen Global Scholarship, because that works out as a higher discount essentially than the 20% alumni discount. So yeah, the short answer is, well, the answer is no. You can only have one scholarship. So hopefully that's clear.
But just to highlight, as Brian has pointed out, the higher value, we applied the more generous value to this. But normally internal Aberdeen scholarships like this cannot be combined with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect, thank you. So another question someone has asked, is there a time limit on time elapsed since they last graduated from Aberdeen, saying that they graduated in 2010? And does it matter what level was reached at last graduation? So if they've already done a postgraduate degree with us, would they still be eligible for any alumni discount on further postgraduate study?
So David, you might be best placed to answer that one.
Yeah, so I'll answer the second part last. So yes, they would still qualify. The criteria for the new Aberdeen postgraduate scholarship do not exclude anyone who has already done a master's, or they could have a PhD from us and come back for master's. They could have a bachelor degree and come back for master's. The scholarship would apply. In terms of sort of lapse between last studies, we do take that into account. That's where your CV and your personal statement and any work experience can become very important, because obviously you want to make sure that you are ready to come back to university and get back into that sort of academic mindset. So we don't have any strict limits. Normally, sort of like 10 years is fine. Beyond then, we would look at what have you done, have you used some of the knowledge from your previous degree, and often then it can also be worthwhile to have a chat with the program coordinator just to sort of get an idea of what is expected, what knowledge, are you ready? And then in some cases, if we feel that it's maybe too much of a study gap, or the change is too big, then as Jenna was saying earlier, some of those sort of stackable, we maybe start with one course and see how you get on, and then build up towards your master's. Once you're sort of back in that study rhythm and you've shown that, yes, you've done well on the first two courses, you've done the PG cert, you can move on to the full master. So we would take all of that into account.
Right. So the short summary with regard to the idea of elapsed, if you've studied some time ago, from the funding point of view, it doesn't matter. It would only matter potentially slightly from the admissions point of view. But in terms of the qualifying for the alumni discount or the alumni postgraduate scholarship, it wouldn't matter how long ago you graduated. Okay, thanks, David.
Another one, another question. Someone's asking, what opportunities for placements or work experience does the university offer to their postgraduate students?
Right. Well, Regina, your colleagues would be very close in terms of this question, so I'll let you answer that one.
Yes. So it depends. A favorite careers advisor answer. So there's quite a number of different options available, but what exactly is best for you and what exactly works there will really depend on what your plans are, what your master's is. So generally at the university, we run a program of work experience we call the ABDN internships that run several times a year, and they are almost all part-time opportunities. They're open to all students, and a lot of our master's students, a lot of our postgrads take part in those and snuffle those up from the undergrad, quite frankly. So some of those are internal to the university, but they're also with quite a lot of local employers, and they're really interesting projects. We obviously advertise a lot of other opportunities, and we also give students help with finding things. So that ranges from, we run a part-time jobs fair, so just for your sort of normal student job, but also, finding opportunities that are maybe much more geared towards your qualification to run alongside that. in terms of placements that are integrated, that's where it then really depends on the program that you're studying. So there are lots of different models. So some have a placement or several placements integrated, and that is part of the degree program. Some have other models of work-based learning, ranging from lots and lots of guest lectures to maybe having a consultancy style project included, or industry-based dissertation. So rather than doing a dissertation, you're actually then working on a project for an employer. But that really varies vastly from one degree program to the next.
Right. Okay. Margaret, we better go back to more questions.
Yes. So we've got a couple of questions on applications and admissions. So David, I think this will be up your alley. So someone has asked, is there someone they can contact to help with their postgraduate application? Are there resources for application help?
It kind of depends on what kind of help, but yeah, if you have submitted an application and you need to follow up, then we do have a dedicated admissions team, which can also be reached via the study at email address. If you are sort of in a process of deciding, then our careers team obviously can help with if it's more about a decision process leading up to what you want to study. But if it's more about I've submitted my application, I haven't heard back yet, or I need to, one of my documents was the wrong document, or any of those sort of things, then yes, we have a dedicated admissions team that will help with that side of things.
Just to add as well, so we have a section on our website which is to do with applying for postgrad study. So that gives advice on how to structure a personal statement, for example, what's involved in that. There's a little, we call them mini career courses, so online courses that you can go through. Takes you like 10 minutes. And if you are an alum or a current student, then you'd also be welcome to submit your draft personal statement through our system to us, and we can give you some comments on that.
Yeah, I would just add as well, from if the person asking is an international student, we also have an international team who often visit other countries, where we typically get students from. So if they were an international student, there's also the international recruitment team who can also advise and assist with applications or advice regarding paperwork and English language requirements and all that kind of thing as well. So it's similar to what David said from the admissions team, but it's more focused on international applicants. So if you go to the international section of our website, I think it's abdn.ac.uk/in-my-country, you'll be able to see the support that we offer for students from different parts of the world as well, in addition to what David and Regina mentioned.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. And just a very quick sidebar, because I am seeing a couple of questions asking for entry requirements on specific programs. So just for the sake of time, we're going to focus on some more of the general questions on funding and admissions and everything. But if you go to the prospectus pages for the specific programs that you're interested in, you'll be able to see a list of specific entry requirements for those programs, any accreditations, all that kind of information. And as we've mentioned earlier, if you have any other questions on those programs, you can always email us at study@abdn.ac.uk and we'll get back to you with some more specific program focused help. So someone's asking, if you have applied for a PhD that was not a studentship, how does funding work for those?
That's a really tricky one. But yeah, thanks, David. I was going to say that's a tricky one, so I'll gladly accept your offer to answer that.
Yes, so generally, in a lot of those cases, you would probably be self-funding then. If there is no official studentship or UKRI or industry funding already attached to the PhD project, then it is possible to do it as a self-funded student. Unfortunately, in that case, often funding is not available. But what normally happens is when you apply for PhD, your school and your supervisors will look at all available options for funding, and there might be some from research grants that might cover part of the PhD research. So as Brian was saying earlier, it is a very tricky one, but that's where often you then have an in-depth conversation with the school and your relevant supervisors to see what might be available. And it often very much depends on your research project, on what it is you want to do, and if it fits into any of the various pods of funding that might be available but it is definitely a very tricky one in that case.
Perfect. Thank you, David. So a couple of questions for online. Jen, I'll direct these to you. So does the alumni funding apply to alumni who have completed a prior online master's?
Yes. So the same as before, if you've studied before, the funding options are still available for you. And for online, that is just your alumni discount. So yes, you get that.
Right. So someone asking, David, I feel like you're in the hot seat on this one. Someone has asked, in general, how long does it take from application to selection or approval, or does it depend on each school or subject based on the number of applications or anything else?
Yeah, that's a good one. So we generally aim to make a decision as quickly as possible, and generally speaking, we aim for sort of 5 working days as sort of standard decision making. As with all of these things, sometimes it will be quicker, which is great. Sometimes we might wait for additional information, or we might have some follow-up questions, and it might take a little bit longer. Obviously, that's sort of over the summer, as we're nearing the intake, we are busier than at other, so there's sort of crunch points, but yeah, generally I would say so within 5 working days, we would aim to make a decision and communicate that to an applicant. But it can sort of vary, it's sometimes a little bit longer. But if it is something more complex and we need more information, we would be in touch and request what it is we're looking for.
Lovely, thank you. So I think just for the sake of time, we'll just ask one final question. And then, as we said, if you have any other questions that we haven't gotten to, or if you think of a question afterwards, just feel free to email us. So somebody is asking, is this funding opportunity a new initiative? And will it be around after this year?
Yes, so specifically the Alumni Postgraduate Scholarship, which was the essentially capping or reducing home or UK fees to 7,000. That is brand new for this forthcoming academic year. So this was only introduced a few months ago. So it currently is approved for the academic year 25-26. So September 25 entry and January 26 entry. As of right now, I can't say 100% that it will be available in future years. I very much hope it is. And I think a lot of that will depend on the uptake and the interest from our alumni community in doing that. But I can't say for 100% that it will definitely be available the following year, or it might still be available, but might be a different value. It might be a bigger discount, or it might be slightly lower. I don't know for sure. So all I can say right now is that it's for the forthcoming academic year, students starting in September 25 or January 26. But I hope that we will be able to offer it in future years. But yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on the website, or I would expect we will have a decision on that probably in the autumn. That's generally when our scholarships are approved for forthcoming years. So yeah, hopefully that it's not exactly, I can't answer 100%, but I would very much expect we'll have something, if not the same offer again in the I guess that would be the 26-27 academic year. That also applies to the Aberdeen Global Scholarship as well, same principle. So that's currently on offer for September 25 and January 26. And again, we will hopefully have something similar for future years. But again, that will probably be confirmed in the autumn.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. And I'll hand it over to you all for final thank yous and a sign off.
Yeah, I mean, that flew by. I didn't think it would take an hour, but I think we did cover a lot of information, and we had some really great questions as well. So thanks for those. What I will do is just to conclude by, well, thanking my colleagues firstly for their time today. I really appreciate you sharing your insights and your expertise relating to postgraduate study and to funding. Margaret, can you just go back to that slide with the web URLs and the email address as well? Just In terms of taking that next step, the best thing to do, obviously, is to go to the website, research. You'll find information on the programs we offer and all those funding opportunities that I went through as well. So feel free to reach out to us by email, on social media, or if you can call us as well. There's lots of ways to get in touch. And then we will share this recording with everyone who's registered for today's event. So we'll send out an email within the next week with a link to the recording. It will also be published on the university's YouTube channel, so you can watch it back again in your own time. And yeah, like I said, it usually takes us about a week by the time we get it. We have to add captions and things and get it uploaded. So keep an eye out on your email for a link to that recording. And yeah, that's it. We're pretty much bang on an hour. So thank you all for your attention. I really hope you found this informative. If you have any feedback, I think, looking at some of the questions, we could have probably spoken a lot longer. I think we do need to probably next time do a little bit more on the postgraduate research, PhD funding. But again, that would probably take an entire session, an hour-long session, if not more, on its own. So yeah, thank you, everyone. And again, to my colleagues for presenting, and to Margaret for doing all of the important work behind the scenes. I appreciate your help today as well. And yeah, thanks everyone again. And we hope to see you all, well, many of you at least, back to maybe studying with us again in the future. Thank you. Bye.